this is the case that I want to talk about, that one of my chatters sent me. I wouldn't have known about it otherwise. So this is a case that's happened over in Ireland. And it is so similar. I've been wanting to talk about it for a while, but of course it's all been going on with the arrest in the Spencer and Monique case. This is a Travis Decker situation. A selfish twonk who's got in custody battles, taking it out on the child. This is one boy that he's taking it out on, whereas Travis killed all three of his daughters, didn't he? Not that I'm saying it's better that it's just one child. It's just as bad. It's just as disgusting. So this has happened over in Dublin, in Ireland. It is, as you can imagine, striking a massive chord over there. This is a man separated from the mother of his son, but with custody rights. But no, it's not enough for him that he wanted to be back with his ex-partner. Really, why can these people? And I'm not going to just say men, because women do it as well. Why can they not just accept when someone doesn't want to be with them? You do not have the right to make somebody be with you, or people don't have an obligation to be with you just because you want them to. Everyone's a free spirit. If somebody doesn't want you, they don't want you. That's all there is to it. There's nothing you can do about it. It's sad, it's horrible. As I said, we've all probably had to deal with that at some point in our lives, and it's horrible feeling. It can take you a long time to get over it. But, you've got to get over it, because you are not the center of the universe. If somebody wants to be with somebody else, or they don't want to be with you, you take responsibility for your own actions. Think about why they don't want to be with you. Maybe this guy's ex-partner didn't want to be with him because he was an absolute twonk. Anyway, let's have a look at the case. As I say, trigger warning. It's very, very sad, just like the Travis Decker case. There's not much sadder, is it, than, a child being murdered, and being murdered by their own father. Disgusting. I'm going to put a few windows down. Let me put the windows down the case. Things I've talked about. I'll say I'm going to split this video to the individual things that I've talked about. Okay, so here we are. This is the twonk father and his son. I just can't believe it. You just can't understand how you could do that. His son is 12 years old. Now, apparently, they disappeared before. We're going to watch the Shattered Lives, a Daily Mirror podcast about it. Apparently, he had disappeared with this son before. But do you know what this guy has done? He's murdered the son, I think, in his house. Maybe he had custody of him for the weekend or whatever. He's murdered the son. Then he's gone to the house of his ex-partner to take his own life in the garden. I mean, so that is definitely a statement to her, isn't it? That's, apart from the fact he's murdered this poor 12-year-old boy, imagine being murdered by the person you trusted most in the world. This boy probably adored his dad. And now everyone's saying, oh, what a nice man he was. Nobody can believe that he did it, but he'd had some mental health issues. Oh my God, how many people, including maybe yourself, do you know who've got mental health issues, who grapple with mental health issues day in, day out, try and cope with life? They don't go and murder their 12-year-old son, do they? I can't take these as excuses anymore. I'm sick of it. With people trying to make an excuse for him, makes me so angry. He's a nasty, narcissistic piece of shit, in my opinion. I don't care about his mental health issues. If he had ideation about taking his own life or murdering his own son, he should have gone. So he should have gone and committed himself. He should have gone to the hospital and got himself committed. The first time it comes into your head to kill your own son, a 12-year-old boy, you take yourself off and get yourself sectioned. What a selfish, horrible man. Sorry, nobody would convince me he was a nice man. He wasn't a nice man. He was not a nice man. Anyway, so we're going to watch this on YouTube. It'll tell you the whole story of it. And yeah, just, be aware. It is a distressing story.
Hello, and welcome to Shattered Lives. It's a bit of a sad one and a difficult way to kind of start the horrendous tragedy out in Clondalkin and Ballyfor podcast as normal, and we were going to answer a lot of your questions. Side has occurred today, and really it is the only story in town, the one that we want to focus on in our podcast today. Both of us were across this. Mick, you first heard about this earlier on this afternoon. Just kind of break down for us what we were hearing first earlier on today and what we know now.
Hello, everybody. This is desperately sad. Essentially, at about 1:15, I heard that 2 bodies had been found. One had been found in Clondalkin in West Dublin, and another had been found in the Ballyfermot area, southwest Dublin. We understood that the body that was found in Ballyfermot was that of an adult. I think it was the body was in the back garden, and then subsequent to that and linked to that, there was a child's body found in a house in Clondalkin. Now, I went to Ballyfermot. It was Cherry Orchard Drive, and you went to Clondalkin. 2 very emotional scenes.
Yes.
And scenes like this, they're always people always think it'll be chaotic and noisy. In Cherry Orchard Drive, there was a deathly quiet, and I've noticed that about a lot of murder scenes. I've spoken about this before, and death scenes. It's just tremendously quiet.
Tremendously quiet, yeah. Just shock and grief in the community. We've subsequently learned, and obviously it'll be out by the time this podcast is out, that the deceased were a Wayne and Oisin O'Reilly. Wayne O'Reilly was 48 and Oisin only 11 years old. It didn't take long to confirm those names because Wayne and Oisin actually went missing back in October of last year, and there was a fairly prominent Garda public appeal for information, and their photographs were put out at the time. They were at the time found safe and well, but it indicates, I suppose.
Yeah, sorry, I've been trying to put it on full picture and it won't go on full picture. But yeah, so it's important to know that there had been a scare before where he had disappeared with this young boy. But thankfully, look how it's ended up. They were found safe and well, both him and the young boy. So surely that should have been at the end of him having custody, shouldn't it? Once you kidnap your child when you're on make everyone worry, and because I just feel sorry for these mothers or fathers. They're told that by the courts they have to let their child go with this person, even though they feel that their child is not safe. Like with Travis Decker, that's over there in America. This one's in Ireland. I remember a member of my family, didn't want her son to go off with his dad because his dad was violent. But, this person in my family, they had to let them go because that's what the courts decided. They let these children go with these violent men or women. Terrible.
Was something about this horrendous case that there had been ongoing issues for some time.
Just to clarify, they are father and son.
They are father and son, yeah. So Oisin's body was found at a house there in Lindisfarne Grove, which I was at for a short period of time there today. And there were a few locals gathered, just kind of standing there in total disbelief, really, watching the Garda forensic team arriving, and members of uniform members who are kind of just keeping the peace there and taping off the scene. And then around about 3 o'clock this afternoon, the ambulance arrived to collect the remains, and the remains were brought out of the house. We're in this game a long time. In fact, someone only messaged me earlier being like, I hope yous are all right covering something like this. In a way, we're totally numbed to a lot of stuff in this job. And sadly, this hasn't been the first murder-suicide, but there was something, horror just about that moment when the remains were brought out of the house on a stretcher and into the back of that ambulance. It's just heartbreaking and horrible to watch. I mean, that is a young child under that covering, under that sheet. An 11-year-old boy who had his whole life ahead of him, and sadly, for whatever reason, his father decided to take his life before taking his own.
And
yeah, I'm just going to pause that a minute because I can't get it on the full page view. I'm not sure why, but I just want to give you their names and that they're just. I just want to show you an article. So here they are. That's a 12-year-old boy and his dad. I can't look at his dad's face without hating him. I hate him. I'm sorry. I can't. What do you mean? People say, oh, he was such a nice man. No, he wasn't. Obviously, he wasn't. So a Dublin man killed his own son in his own home. Killed his own son in his own home before travelling to his ex-partner's house and taking his life in the back garden of the property. Now, she's lucky as well, whichever way you look at it. Did he go there? Was he going to kill her as well? And he just couldn't get at her. So he decided to just do that in the back garden. That's like a dog peeing in the garden. It's like, so he's ruined that house, apart from the fact he's taken her son away from her, which obviously is the worst thing, but also he's gone to where she lives, her home, and done that in her back garden. So she won't even be able to live there, will she? Maybe, how is she going to carry on living there knowing what he did? So apparently his remains were discovered in the garden on Thursday morning, and the Gardaí were alerted. And when the Gardaí went to the dead man's house in Clondalkin in West Dublin, they forced their way inside and found the boy in there. And the father and son were named last night as Wayne and Oisin. Oisin, is it? Or Oisin, I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing that right. O'Reilly. They were reported missing last October, resulting in a Garda search that ended when they turned up safe and well. So he took him off before. So the Irish Times understands that although 48-year-old Mr. O'Reilly's disappearance with his 12-year-old son raised concerns about his frame of mind, he appeared well in the period that followed. So they allowed him to carry on having custody of him. Mr. O'Reilly continued to have access to his son in a shared custody arrangement with his ex-partner, the boy's mother. Could you imagine how terrified that boy would have been? How terrified he would have been that his father approached him to kill him. Same with the girls in the Travis Decker case. You just cannot get your head around it. So the property at which Mr. O'Reilly took his own life is in Ballyferm at Dublin 10. His ex-partner lives there. It was sealed off as a potential crime scene on Thursday, as was the house where Oisin's, I'm sure I'm not pronouncing that right, I'm so sorry, remains were found at Leyland Road, Condalkin, Dublin 22. So there were, apparently the post-mortem results are in, but I couldn't find the causes of death. But apparently that will dictate the direction of the investigation. But the Gardaí suspect the case is one of murder and suicide. They're not looking for anybody else. And detectives believe that Oisin died violently. I think they believe that he'd probably been strangled, but I don't know that for sure yet. I don't know how Mr. O'Reilly took his own life, whether he had a gun or what. Anyway, at Mr. O'Reilly's ex-partner's house where his remains were found, children's toys were visible at the side entrance and Christmas murals were painted on the windows at the front of the property. Look, Christmas, yeah? That tell you, Christmas, all these big occasions, they're triggers for these twonks, you know, all festering inside, and then Christmas brings things to a head. Selfish bastard. Sorry, excuse my French. Total. Oh, I could say a lot more. So a friend of Mr. O'Reilly's visited the scene on Thursday, saying everybody in the area was shocked when news of the deaths emerged. He said Mr. O'Reilly was well known in the area and sometimes earned a living fixing cars. Sometimes. He said the deceased man had suffered mental health issues. Oh, didn't. I've known him for more than 20 years. We're all shocked, devastated, he said. The man added it was hard to reconcile his memories of Mr. O'Reilly with the killing of Oisin. Well, I'll tell you what, that's the real him. That is the real him. And that's probably why his ex-partner left him, why Oisin's mum split up from him. He's probably an absolute twat, I think. Sorry, I'm not having it that he's a nice man. He's not. So a Sinn Féin representative for the Ballyfermot area described as heartbreaking the deaths in Clondalkin and Ballyfermot. This is so sad. Deepest sympathy to the family and friends. You're in our thoughts at this tragic time. Some local people formed a guard of honour as Oisin's remains were removed from his father's house. Oh my God, it's just heartbreaking. That poor boy. Now his poor mum. She's the one that probably had to send him off because the court ordered it, just like Whitney with the Travis Decker case. Had to send him off with his father, even though she knew. Whitney had told the courts she was worried about Travis's state of mind. Made no difference. She must feel like she packed them off to their death. Anyway, Garda headquarters confirmed members of the force were alerted to the discovery of the man's remains in Ballyfermot at about 8:30 a.m. yesterday, resulting in the decision to go to the second property where the boy was found dead. So they found the man first, the twonk first, and then they found that little boy. The coroner has been notified in the services of the Office of State, and yeah. So let's go back to the podcast. What a twat that man is. I hope he's spinning in hell. I need to put him in the hellhole.
I think we understand that where Oisin was found would be the father's house. And the father, Wayne, was then found at someone else's house in Ballyfermot.
Yes, he was found in, I suppose, an outhouse or a shed at the back of that property in Ballyfermot. And, look, he is, by all accounts, believed to have taken his own life. Gardaí are pretty confident of that. His remains were removed first from the scene in Ballyfermot, and then subsequently the child's remains were removed this afternoon. So there's a post-mortem going to take place on both of those bodies, but I think Gardaí are fairly satisfied that this is, by all accounts, a murder-suicide. They won't they won't actually formally identify it as such until they have the post-mortem results, but we know a good bit about what's happened already.
And I think it's fair to say that Gardaí aren't looking for anybody else in relation to this. I noted one of the reports today, they said that they haven't, even if you read the press release, they're not looking for information. It's not a witness appeal. It's basically, they're investigating this, but they essentially know what happened. And I think at this stage, the belief would be that he asphyxiated young Oisin, then went to Ballyfermot and took his own life in, as you say, an outbuilding there.
This is, there's no two ways about it. It's a horrific, horrendous incident. You were speaking, Mick, to, I suppose, a friend of Wayne O'Reilly at the scene at Ballyfermot, he was obviously understandably very upset.
He went up to the house and he blessed himself. And just as he was walking past, he said hello, and I said, "Geez, this is grim." And he blessed himself as he approached the house, and he said he was a very good friend of mine. And he said that he's known him for more than 20 years. He said he was a very popular man, very friendly man. His mental health had gone downhill in the last couple of years.
Yeah, you know who else was a very friendly man, popular man? Ted Bundy. He was a very popular, nice man that everybody thought was fucking brilliant. But even he didn't kill his own child, not even the child of his girlfriend. Even he drew a line at that, I suppose. But, I can't, it makes me so angry to hear people eulogizing about this guy. Oh, he was a nice guy, he was friendly, he'd do anything for anybody. He's a complete twonk.
And he seemed to be having mental health problems recently. But I asked him when was the last time he spoke to Mr. O'Reilly, and he said he spoke to him a few weeks ago, and he seemed fine. One thing he did say was that Mr. O'Reilly doted on his young son,
really
Oisin, and was absolutely devoted to him. But you could just see...
he doted on his young son. He was absolutely devoted to him. He was so devoted to him. He's asphyxiated him, murdered him, took his life away from him because, you know what? Didn't dote on him. That boy, as far as he was concerned, he belonged to him. He was his son. He owned him. How dare he? How dare he take that young boy's life? How dare he? And now they're saying, oh, he doted on him. He was devoted to him. Bollocks. Cojones. All those things, all those words that probably YouTube's going to pick me up on. He is an absolute cunt in my eyes. Sorry, but he is.
You can see the shock in his face. You can hear the emotion in his voice. And I'll have to be honest, you could see and sense the emerging anger in that man, because he said, essentially, I can't believe he did this.
Yeah.
He was my friend, and I can't believe he did this.
And a lot of people will be listening to this and say, are you trying to elicit some sort of sympathy for this man? It's not what we're doing. We're just simply reporting the facts as they are. And, these things are very complicated. As you say, you spoke to this man who up until today...
It's not complicated at all. I'm sorry, but it isn't. I appreciate you're just reporting the news and not having a go at these guys or whatever they're doing. It's not complicated. It's not complicated at all. This is a twat, a man who thought he owned his son. The son belonged to him because he's chip off the old block. It's part of him. It belonged to him. He had the right to take his life. It's not complicated at all. He's a narcissistic, absolute twat. I'm not having this mental health thing. There are people dealing with mental health day in, day out, and they go off and, sometimes take their own lives. They do not take the lives. Anyone who takes the life of their child, he's not taking the life of that child because he thinks the child would be better off dead. He's not doing it for the sake of the child. He's doing it for, this sometimes happens. That's quite, with mothers, sometimes that happens. Or even fathers, I suppose, if they think that life is just so terrible that the child will be better off dead. That isn't the case here. He's not killed that child because he thinks that child would have a bad life. That child was having a great life, thank you very much. He's got all these Christmas things up there. His mum's looking after him. He's not having a bad life. He's not done that out of some charity to the child, save the child. He's done it for himself because he couldn't let go of the relationship. He couldn't let go of the child. He couldn't accept that that child was going to grow up. And he was having custody with him. It wasn't as if he could never see him or anything. So he's probably spent a Christmas without him. He's like, I'm not, why can't I be there at Christmas or New Year? He just wants it all. He can't. So sorry, I'm not having that at all. I don't feel any sympathy for this man. I literally don't feel one bit of sympathy. I feel sorry for the child, and I feel sorry for the mum and all the rest of the family that have now got to cope knowing what's happened.
Thought of this guy as his friend and someone he respected who was going through a hard time. But as with every time these murder suicides happen, it's not like people see them happening. People don't imagine the worst. They don't think that, they don't want to think or don't want to believe that people are capable of this. And it's very hard for even you and I to get our head around and understand. Don't get me wrong. There's a huge mental health crisis in this country, but it is very hard to understand how that then turns homicidal. Whatever about.
It's not to do with the mental health. He's a twonk. This, personally, in my opinion, is nothing to do with his mental health. He's selfish, and that has happened. There is a mental health crisis, but this man, he's selfish. He should never have been allowed to see that child. After the first time that he abducted him, disappeared with him, and the police were worried about his welfare, and then luckily then he was found safely, he should never have been allowed to have him again. This is not mental health. This is a twat, selfish, narcissist, just doing, if they try and eulogize this and make it out, oh, poor man, don't say poor man. Yeah, he had a choice. If he had a mental health issue, why didn't he just take himself off and do it to himself? He took this boy that he's supposed to love and be devoted to, he did it out of spite. It's not mental health crisis, it's spite, it's evil, just like Travis Decker. It's revenge. It's all those things. It's not mental health.
And taking your own life, which is a horrendous, horrible thing to do, but to then, and obviously that's a subsequent action after he took his own child's life. But it's just very hard to understand how that happens. It really is.
I was going to say, look, obviously I'm a father, Paul, you're not. And I was going to say, as a father, I can't understand how anybody would do this. But I think you and I, we're both humans first. And I think as a human, you can't, it's hard to get your head around how anybody could do this to a child.
Yeah, exactly.
And Paul, how many cases like this have we covered? And they are absolutely heartbreaking to cover.
And I always hark back to a podcast that I watched ages ago, which I can't remember what podcast it was years ago, but it struck me because of my own history with my ex-partner deleting himself. I heard this policeman say that in his view, anyone who is suicidal is homicidal. Suicidal is homicidal. When people feel like doing something to themselves, not always, but quite often, they're likely to do something to somebody else. I mean, how often do we see it with shootings, school shootings, or any kind of shooting, rampages around shopping malls or whatever? Quite often these people who commit these crimes, they are suicidal. Some people will just take themselves off and do it to themselves. Suicide, as horrible as it is a choice. People do choose to do it. So, sad. It's horrible to think of anybody doing it, but it is a choice. But when they decide to take a load of other people with them, they're selfish twonks. That is not, your sympathy just runs out. You do feel sorry for anyone who's feeling so sad that they feel like they've got to leave this world because they can't cope with it. But it's hard to feel sorry for someone who then decides, oh yeah, I'm going, but you know what? I'm going to take a load of other people with me to share in my misery. That is wholly different. And of course, a lot of people do it. Obviously not in this case. I don't know how he's actually killed himself, but a lot of people will go off like running amok around a shopping mall or shooting up a school because they want the police to kill them. It's like suicide by cop, isn't it? They want it. They want to cause the maximum carnage and unhappiness for all those other people. Because for every one person, look at the Bondi Beach thing, for every one person that gets killed in anything like that, you can multiply that, the misery of it, by about 100 because of family, friends, witnesses that are traumatized. It's not only the victim that they kill, all the other carnage that goes in its wake, all the ripples that go out from it. So, they are just total twonks. I literally do not feel any sympathy for this man. How can you? How can you?
Let's be honest, you feel like a complete scumbag being here, but it's our job to tell the people what is going on, and it's our job to report from the scene. And the scenes are unique, but they're the same. They're heartbroken friends, they're shocked neighbours, there are Gardaí, and let's think for a moment about the Gardaí and emergency services who had to go to both those houses in.
Yeah, and we forget about the police, as well, the trauma. Imagine those police that went to look for Travis Decker and found 3 little girls murdered. The Gardaí that have had to go to this house and bring out a 12-year-old boy who's been murdered by his father, and go to the other property. And, these are more victims. So, very difficult to feel sorry for this man at all. That mental health is a load of bollocks as far as I'm concerned. He never thought about anyone or anything, not even his own son, who supposedly he was absolutely devoted to. Yeah, whatever.
Dublin today, the sights that they saw will probably live with him forever.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's really hard to get your head around it. It just doesn't bear thinking about.
No, and look, sadly, there have been, I'm thinking of the incident that happened in Finglas last year as well, a very similar case. A father took his own life after taking his child's life, and it sadly will not be the last time that this happens. Very, very hard to cover.
And you remember just the things that stay with you. I was over at Manchester watching a City game with my young fella who's 14 going on 15, and just we were having a great time, and then at the same time a father was doing that to his young daughter. You try and rationalize things. I always say this, you try to rationalize things like this happen, and you just can't. You really can't. That the poor mother of Oisin O'Reilly, how can you even think of putting yourself in her shoes? What she must be going through now.
Yeah.
There's no rhyme or reason behind it. It's just very hard to understand. And look, there are other subjects we want to touch on.
We cannot rationalise evil. I do believe in evil as well. It's like with the Southport attackers or any of these type things. There's evil. There are dark spirits in this world. I really believe it. They're getting to people. They're evil. What this father did is evil. It's like he's been entered by a dark spirit or whatever. I don't know. I'm not using that as an excuse for him. I think he's a twat all the same. But, there's dark forces, isn't there, as well as good forces. Luckily, the good, believe it or not, because when you start looking on the internet and everything, you think, oh my God, there's so many bad people in the world. But there are more good people, of course, but they don't, get the same attention, do they? There are definitely a lot of good people in the world. And we have to remember that. But it's hard to remember sometimes, especially if, you are interested in true crime and things. It doesn't exactly show you the best side of human nature, does it?
But, we were going to answer your questions. I don't think it's probably appropriate for this podcast. We might do that for you on the weekend. But this incident would be, correct me if I'm wrong, Mick, would be the 3rd homicide of the year so far. So we've already, in the space of the last week or so, had 3 different incidents.
Yeah, so 2 other people have died over incidents. Now, I probably need to be careful about one. There is you covered this case of a man.
Okay, I'm not going to go into the other ones. I just wanted to concentrate on this case. So Oisin, Lily tells me it's pronounced. Thank you for that, because I won't want to pronounce his name wrong. Where have I gone there? Hang on. I think I'm there. So very, very sad. All we can do is pray. There's not much else we can do. Unfortunately, it's happened and that's it. But it's very, very sad, and I hope the mother manages to cope somehow. But okay, so as I say, I will be splitting this video up and making it into smaller sort of sections with the individual things that I've talked about. Thank you for watching as always, and thank you in advance for anyone who lets me know any advice about the computer. Thank you for people who have helping with Ko-fis and things, and just thank you to all of you for watching. Thank you so much. Thank you, replay crew. Thank you, lovely lurkers. I'll see you really soon in the next video, and until then, as always, may your God go with you. Bye.